Good morning. It is a beautiful Wednesday morning, I think, somewhere in Queensland, the Benarkin State Forest. A beautiful and completely deserted spot. I camped down by the creek last night, and nobody else around, just me and the kookaburras and mopoke owl. And it was pretty fucking nice. The weather up here in Queensland is just that bit nicer, that bit warmer than in New South Wales. So I wasn't even freezing last night in my swag. Lit myself a nice fire, cooked some dinner. It was fucking delightful. And you know, this morning I caught myself thinking about absolutely nothing at all. And that is pretty much the best feeling ever. The object of the exercise of this little... Well, it's not the only object of this exercise. I was going to say it's the object of the exercise of this little shakedown run, but as the name would suggest, there's also a purpose, practical purpose, which is to see which bits fall off the bike, etc. as I fang along through the bush. Because it's always good to know this before you set out on a trip halfway around the world. And it's been a useful little experience so far. I've established that cheap neoprene heated hand grips are not the go, because they just sort of they velcro, right? And they just you just put them over your hand grip and do it the velcro, and run your wires to your auxiliary power. And I mean, neoprene's not slippery exactly, but because the neoprene isn't actually attached to your hand grip, you still need to apply pressure or it's going to slip. And as time goes by, after about 5 hours on the bike, that extra amount of hand grip you're applying translates to fatigue, muscle soreness. It makes you that little bit stiffer too, so it's affecting your handling as well, even though you don't notice it immediately. After a while you realise that you're just a little stiffer than you should be. So I took those off. I decided they were not the go. I did try them out as heated patches down the front of my vest the other night when it was really cold. So I took them off my hand grips, stuffed them down my jacket. They weren't bad, but they weren't particularly useful. I just don't think they're putting out that much heat, really. So I think I might need to invest in some slightly more high-spec heated hand grips. The other thing I've learned is that my auxiliary power setup is completely fucked, because it doesn't charge anything, like anything. So my phone won't charge off it, which, didn't entirely surprise me. And, I thought, well, maybe it's actually the USB cable, because sometimes, you have that trouble with cheap USB cables. They just don't charge your phone. So, I tried out a few. Even tried out the one that I got with my new DeLorme Reach, which should be a pretty good one, I'm thinking. But you'd hope so, wouldn't you, if you're relying on it to charge your emergency locator beacon. But no bueno. So and then I also tried to use it to charge my my solar power pack, and that also produced precisely no results whatsoever. So so I don't really have a lot of charge in any of my devices at the moment after my little night in the bush. So as I said, I have a solar power pack, but I'm finding that it's really hard to get it completely charged just in the sun, and that surprises me, right? Because obviously that's what it's designed for. But yesterday I had it sitting out in the Queensland sun. It was absolutely baking. I couldn't even sit in the sun, it was that hot. Out there for like 4 hours, and hardly any charge. So far, I mean, the power pack seems to work fine, but the only time I've been able to get it to work fine is when I've actually charged it from my power point. So it's not exactly what I was trying to achieve with the solar sort of thing, but yeah, so I may need to reconsider my entire electrical and charging setup here. What else have I learned? I've learned that those huge blue plastic bags that you get, they're like, I don't know how much, they're like 40 litres or huge plastic bags that when you have a shredder at work and they cart off your shredded confidential documents to some further confidential shredded document disposal facility, they give you these huge big bags that go in your shredder, and they're really thick. They're these thick blue plastic and super durable, really big. Anyway, I have one of those and it's one of my favourite things. So it squashes down to nothing, but when I camp, I mean particularly at this time of year, every morning you wake up and everything is just drenched with dew. Everything gets wet overnight, even if it's not that cold. And so, and this bag is fantastic because my swag's not very big. And so I really can't fit my gear in it. Or I could, but it would be, you know, uncomfortable, and, you know, if the gear's touching the side of your tent, you might get a bit of water penetration or something. Is that my turn? Nah. So yeah. So it's not ideal to be stuffing all of that in a one-man swag. And I don't have to, because I just put, you know, my helmet, my jacket, all my bags, all my stuff. I just put it all in this blue plastic bag and it's perfect, and everything in the morning is dry. So that's super convenient. Other lessons learned. I decided that I would really like to have a like a second billy can, or like some kind of, you know, like metal insert, like one that's, it would be good to have them like Russian dolls, you know, like a slightly smaller billy can that just fits inside my billy can, so they pack up nicely, because it's such a shit when you want a cup of tea but you also want to cook your dinner. So yeah, so last night I fortunately dinner involved baked beans, so I ended up with my baked bean can, which became my surrogate second billy can, which was very, very useful. But don't always want to be carrying around baked bean can, so I'm thinking that, yeah, I can work out some kind of slightly more optimal setup for that. Yeah, but anyway, look, overall it's been useful. Oh, I have to tell you about the most obvious and most significant issue, of course, which is that I haven't gotten around to buying any Pannier Axia, because I was just so traumatized by the cost of fucking Pannier Ax. I'm like, it's just a couple of bits of metal, that are supposed to keep your soft panniers from smacking into your wheel and your exhaust. Like, it's not that fucking complicated, right? But yeah, apparently it is. Or apparently they want to charge like a wounded bull for it, because yeah, somewhere between 318 and 600 bucks is what I've been looking at for Pannier Ax for a 690 Enduro. And I guess there's probably the KTM premium on that too. I mean, legitimately, I guess people are like, well, if you can afford a KTM, you can probably afford to pay heaps and heaps of money. But just looking for my turn off to go back to the main road. It wasn't actually signposted by much, except for a little arrow and a sign sort of tucked around to the right, which was like, oh, by the way, you need to pay to camp down at Clancy's Crossing. This might be it right here. Yeah, I think this is it. Here we go. That's what I want. Yeah, so I hadn't bought any Pannier Axia because I was procrastinating because I was so traumatized. I'm like, surely there must be a better way of getting this. And, you know, had a friend of mine put out the word with some wreckers. You know, maybe someone's gone and stacked their 690, bingled their Pannier Axia a bit, and gotten them replaced with insurance. And doesn't want the bingled ones. Wouldn't that be nice? But, yeah, no luck with that so far. Oh, there's a pothole. So yeah, I don't have any Pannier Axia, and I don't have any panniers either. I've been dreaming of the what are they? Adventure Spec, the Magadan panniers, the ones that are actually like slash proof as well, because I thought the security would be very useful while I'm travelling. But those also are wildly expensive, like many hundreds of dollars, and so yeah, so I was procrastinating because I was so traumatized by the price, which means that here I am on my Shakedown Run without any panniers and without any Pannier Axia. And have you tried strapping all your camping gear to the two little grab rails at the back of a 690 Enduro? It's a bit tricky. So yeah, I've had various attempts, and some have failed, some haven't. And yeah, strapping down my shit. I was carrying a backpack because I couldn't fit everything in a satisfactory way without doing so, but I really don't like riding with something on my back. I find it it also, you know, again, it just affects your balance a little bit more. It affects your movement, which is important to me on this bike because I can't flat foot it. I'm like, if I've got both toes down, like we're talking tippy toes. So if I want to actually be able to put my foot down properly, I need to do a little bit of a, you know, a shimmy, and need to actually move my off to one side of the bike. And when I'm wearing a backpack, you just don't move quite so readily and nimbly, and that can be the difference between ending up lying on the side on your side looking at the sky and actually just putting your foot down like a normal person. So yeah, so I've decided that the whole backpack thing is definitely suboptimal, and I'm trying to find a good way to strap the backpack also to my ridiculous looking conglomeration of swag and waterproof bag that I got haphazardly strapped to the back of this bike. So yeah, and I did it yesterday, and I was like, this is fantastic, I can move, my shoulders are less stiff, etc. But after a fair few kilometres of corrugations on the dirt road, yeah, the backpack just kept shifting, and then everything just kept shifting, and it just wasn't very secure. Kept having to tie it back on. It was just a bit of a bit of a fuck up, and I was like, oh really? But I think maybe this morning I've tied it down better. I hope so, and we'll see how that goes. Of course, the other thing I have to point out is that the bike has two fuel tanks, right? And although they're connected, you can't really fill up, you know, not in one go. You can't fill up completely just using, say, the Safari tank, which is obviously beautiful and accessible in the front here. The rear tank, of course. Where's Nanango? I want to go to Nanango. Where do we go? Where do I want to go? The road to Nanango? I do not even know. Let's see if this is the road to Nanango. Old mate with his caravan banging along. I think this is the road to Nanango, but we'll find out, won't we?